Checking connection and going live. I got some water.
You see it like that made me think about Childish Gambino.
Welcome to Reading with MissTaylorSaid. Oh, I guess I should share this. Nope. I keep forgetting to do things. It's fine. It's fine. We're good. This is just practice. This is practice. Waiting on people to come in. I'm going to start at 7:05 regardless. What up, Facebook? Oh, that too on Facebook. Hey, y'all. Welcome to Reading with MissTaylorSaid. Welcome to Reading with MissTaylorSaid. Welcome to Reading with MissTaylorSaid. We are starting chapter 9 of Adult Children of Emotionally Immature Parents. Oh, we got 3 people on Facebook. Oh my gosh. Now 2. See, we don't have a whole lot of people right now, but guess what? This is just practice. This is not even the real deal. This is, I'm trying to figure out if I can still do this time and what I need to do to figure out how to make it work so that I can do it consistently. It can be an enjoyable show that people want to engage in. Because right now, this is really giving just like do what you can with what you got. Sarante, what up? Do what you can with what you got. But you know, soon. Hello. Hello. All right. It's 7:04. Stand up. And when the clock strikes 7:05, I will begin. Chapter 9 of Adult Children of Emotionally Immature Parents. I hope y'all had a great Christmas. Welcome to Reading with MissTaylorSaid. Welcome to Reading with MissTaylorSaid. My name is Taylor, also known as MissTaylorSaid, and I started this show in November 2020, right in the nice early part of the pandemic. Started this show in November 2020 in an effort to accomplish a few things. For one, I would like to read the books that I own. I have a crap ton of books, and I want to read them. But I also have ADHD, so I get bored really fast when I'm reading by myself. So I basically body double with y'all so that I can read my books because I'm very interested in what is inside the books. My brain does not give a crap at all if I even read the books. So that is one reason why I started the show. Another reason is because I plan on doing things with my life that include me doing speeches, reading teleprompters, speaking publicly on television. That's why I got the whole 2-camera thing, It's very fun for me because it's like I get to practice with camera A, camera B, Anyway, but I plan on doing that, so I want to practice that by doing this show. And I think the third reason is because I want to do public speaking. I don't know. I've got to figure out what this third reason is. But I want to do public speaking. I am a public speaker. But this allows me to practice with y'all and allows me to engage more with y'all. I've missed doing this. I've missed y'all a lot. I've missed being able to read my stuff. I've missed working my brain in this particular way. And it allows me to be creative. It allows me to get a lot of stuff off my chest. It allows me to educate myself and educate others. And I love that shit. So, chapter 9 of Adult Children of Emotionally Immature Parents. The chapter is called How It Feels to Live Free of Roles and Fantasies. Oh, I am very excited about the contents of this chapter. Okay. In this chapter, we'll explore what life feels like when you stop playing a role in order to relate to an emotionally immature parent. We'll see how new thoughts and actions can help you transcend the emotional loneliness of playing a role as you regain the emotional freedom to truly be yourself. As you'll learn, it can be a struggle to get free, but it's well worth it. The next section is called Family Patterns That May Be Holding You Back. Before we dive into discovering and fostering your true self, let's review some of the family dynamics that keep people trapped in old roles. I need to take notes on this. The first one is called Discouragement of Individuality. If you were raised by an emotionally immature parent, you spent your early years tiptoeing around the anxieties of an emotionally phobic person. The enmeshed families created by such parents are a stronghold against their fear of individuality. A child's individuality is seen as a threat to the emotionally insecure and immature parent because it stirs up fears about possible rejection or abandonment. If you think independently, you might criticize them or decide to leave. They feel much safer seeing family members as predictable fantasy characters rather than real individuals. Oof. They feel much safer seeing family members as predictable fantasy characters rather than real individuals. For parents who fear both real emotion and abandonment, authenticity in their children presents frightening evidence of the child's individuality. These parents feel threatened when their children express genuine emotions because it makes interactions unpredictable and seems threatening to family ties. Therefore, their children, in an attempt to prevent their parents from becoming anxious, often suppress any authentic thoughts, feelings, or desires that would disturb their parents' sense of security. And that's why kiddos like me that grew up in houses where our parents were super strict and all in your business, that is why school was the best place ever. Because when you got to school, you got to take your mask off for the most part. Now, you had a school mask, but it wasn't as thick as the home mask, you know? So, yeah. Whew, this one. You know, and then like growing up in a house with a whole bunch of kids, it was like there were set boxes that we were all kind of like put in by the people running the household, but like you had to fulfill that role. You couldn't just, like, I was the quiet one that you knew was going to tattletale and, you know, middle child and just trying to keep everyone behaving because my sun, Mars, and Mercury are all in Libra and I could not help myself. And then my siblings, on the other hand, my older and immediate younger, they, on the other hand, were like bold, and so they would speak up for themselves and stuff like that. So if I were to then start speaking up for myself or talking back, then that would have me falling outside of my role. And then there would have been a bigger consequence to that. Even if it was me authentically, there would have been a bigger consequence to that than one of my siblings doing it because it's expected of them to do it because they are the bad ones and I'm the good one. So fun times, you know, just learning how, like, let me be dramatic for a moment. Okay, I really would like to discuss the layers of code switching that I've had to do in my life, okay? Because for one, I'm mixed. So, and my parents are divorced. So it's not like my houses were all commingled. I never knew a home that had both my white parent and my black parent in there living at the same time. So I was black Monday through Friday. And then I was black in a white house during the weekend. And then we would go to church. Like, it was like on the weekend, that's when I got my white experiences because I'd go see my dad on the weekend. And then The church that I grew up in was predominantly white people. So, hey y'all, we are reading Adult Children of Emotionally Immature Parents. If you're joining us now, we're reading Adult Children of Emotionally Immature Parents. Welcome to Reading what Miss Taylor said. I'm just talking about my business. Anyway, let me drink some water because my mouth's starting to get dry, and I've been talking to people all day. And so, anyway. So, what I was saying. So, I experienced whiteness on the weekends. Well, not whiteness. It wasn't real. It was. My dad's white. The church I went to was white, predominantly white. So that was my white experience, was on the weekends, right? But I'm talking about the code switching because we're talking about the roles, the lack of individuality, and being in places, going, like, I felt like in my childhood, I felt like I was jumping between places that didn't really want me to be myself, but they wanted me to be the right version of myself for that environment. So, for example, if I'm going to church, I have to make sure I don't cuss, make sure that my conversation is very, very clean and very wholesome. And like, I remember one time I was at kids camp. I was a teenager, like 12 or 13, like just right in that age where hormones are like, hey girl. And I remember calling one of the camp counselors sexy to my peers in my cabin. And they were like, oh, she used the X word. Like, that level of conservative is what I had to deal with. Meanwhile, Monday through Friday, I went to a predominantly black public school in Charlotte. And, you know, like, most of my school experiences were with other low to middle income black and brown kids. And so on the weekdays, I was cussing. I started cussing in 5th grade. I remember I was cussing when I started riding the bus. When my mama stopped taking me to school in her car, and when I started riding the bus, I started cussing, and it felt so natural. But even in school, there's a particular version of yourself you have to show up as at school, because I had to dress a certain way to not get made fun of, because when I dressed with what I had, not with what, I got because it was in a magazine, but like the hand-me-downs that I got from the people at the white church, when I would wear those clothes to my predominantly black public school, bruh, they was cooking my ass. They clowned me so bad. I got picked on every day until I came into the school with new clothes. And then some of the clothes, I would let the clothes get too small so that it fit on me tight, so that and then I would sneak the clothes in my backpack and then take them to school with me so that I could change into the clothes that would make the other kids not make fun of me, because man, that shit sucked. And by the time I got to high school, it got a little bit better, because it was a bigger population, so there was more people more groups to choose from. But middle school was hell. But it was like, there were so many layers of code switching and different roles that I had to play in these different spaces. And then it was just like, not only, home, church, school, it was home, second home, church, school. And I can go into any room. That's all I'm gonna say. Anyway, I said that's all I'm gonna say. Like, I didn't just fucking talk for 10 minutes about code switching. Yeah, the planning. No, for real though, friend, like, I had to be so meticulous about how I was going to behave in every space, because if I slipped up and let, like, school Taylor accidentally slip up at church, like, I got in trouble one time because I was imitating my parents. My parents had said that this particular school was piss poor, and I was at a Wednesday night class at church, and I was wanting to overly describe that something was bad, so I called it piss poor, and you would have thought I said fuck Jesus. Like, you would have thought that, like, you would have thought that I just was like, I was just like middle fingers in the air because I said piss poor. They pulled me out of the class. They went and pulled my mama out of choir practice. They walked to the other side of the church to get my mama out of choir practice to come talk to me because I said piss poor. Like, meanwhile, I also had to be good at cussing when I got to school. Like, I couldn't just cuss and it sound crazy. Like, I actually had to be good at it, or lest you be made fun of. It was... That's the type of stuff that makes me want to homeschool my kids, but at the same time, I'm just like, but socially, I don't know. But anyway, the next section is called Denial of Individual Needs and Preferences. Yes. Sarante said, me at work code switching is a must, even around other black people. I got to be careful because people love to talk. No, I feel you. You, like I said, you have to speak in the language that is socially acceptable based on who you're around. Anyway, shout out to us for being bilingual and multilingual. Denial of individual needs and preferences is the next section. Parents who need to keep strict control because of their anxieties often teach their children not only how they should do things, but also how they should feel and think. Da-da-da. Welcome in. If you are just now joining us, we are reading Adult Children of Emotionally Immature Parents. Let's see. Children who are internalizers tend to take this instruction to heart and may come to believe that their unique inner experiences have no legitimacy. Such parents teach their children to be ashamed of any aspect of themselves that differs from their parents. In this way, children may come to see their uniqueness and even their strengths as odd and unlovable. With his fingers. In such families, internalizing children often learn to feel ashamed of the following normal behaviors: enthusiasm, spontaneity, sadness and grief over hurt, loss, or change, uninhibited affection, saying what they really feel and think, expressing anger when they feel wronged or slighted. It's like I can feel all the feelings dropping out of my arms right now because this is hitting way too close to home. On the other hand, they are taught that the following experiences and feelings are acceptable or even desirable: obedience and deference towards authority, physical illness or injury that puts the parent in a position of strength and control, uncertainty and self-doubt, liking the same things as the parent, guilt and shame over imperfections or being different, willingness to listen, especially to the parent's distress and complaints. Stereotyped gender roles, typically people-pleasing in girls and toughness in boys. If you were an internalizing child with an emotionally immature parent, you were taught many self-defeating things about how to get along in life. Here are some of the biggest ones. Okay. The kid is getting sad. Okay, if you were an internalizing child with an emotionally immature parent, you were taught some self-defeating things about how to get along in life. Here are some of the biggest ones. Give first consideration to what other people want you to do. Don't speak up for yourself. Don't ask for help. Don't want anything for yourself. Internalizing children of emotionally immature parents learn that goodness means being as self-effacing. Is that self-effacing? I feel like that's not the way you pronounce that. Self-effacing? I don't know. Being as self-effacing as possible so their parents can get their needs met first. And I'm assuming that word means that you, thank you. EFFACING. I'm about to find out what that means, but from what I'm gathering, something along the lines of make oneself appear insignificant. There's that. Or keeping quiet. Yep. So be as invisible as possible. Okay, so internalizing children of emotionally immature parents learn that goodness means being as self-effacing as possible, so invisible as possible, so their parents can get their needs met first. Internalizers come to see their feelings and needs as unimportant at best and shameful at worst. Woo! My chest. Internalize. I keep reading every sentence over and over again because I want to make sure it's getting into my head. So I do apologize. You're just going to get every sentence twice. Internalizers come to see their feelings and needs as unimportant at best and shameful at worst. However, once they become conscious of how distorted this mindset is, things can change rather quickly. For example, Carolyn's healing fantasy was that if she was subservient and let her mother be the main character in her life story, her mother would finally appreciate her. But in therapy, she came to this realization: my family role was a fiction. I've realized I'm not a bit character in someone else's novel. I can step off the page. I no longer want to be in that book. The next one, the next family pattern that could be holding you back is called adhering to an internalized parental voice. Ooh, this one's going to hit me in my chest, because if y'all have been following MissTaylorSaid for the last couple of years, especially since the show started, you'll notice, especially if you're following me on Instagram, you'll notice that there were some times that I did like challenges and things that were kind of risque and a little, showy and whatnot. But I literally did that to spite my mom, because the voice in my head is like, you gotta be classy, you gotta be covered up. And I realized it was like one day I was looking through my pictures and I was getting dressed to go out with my friend. Yeah, me too. I remember those days. I was getting dressed to go out with my friend, and I looked at my outfit and I'm like, I'm like, you can see everything because it fits or whatever, but I'm completely covered. What in the conservatives? Even now, it's fine now. I'm chilling at the house, but I was completely covered, and it was because of the fact, everything I wear, I'm afraid of showing too much cleavage. I'm afraid of showing too much leg. I'm afraid of showing too much stomach. All those, because in my head I hear, you have to be classy. You have to be classy. And nobody's going to want you if you dress like that. That's a direct quote, And so, so this next section is about to be about quieting that voice. You may wonder how parents can manage to train a child to go against his or her gut instincts and life-affirming impulses. It occurs through a process I call parent voice internalization. As children, we absorb our parents' opinions and beliefs in the form of an inner voice that keeps up an ongoing commentary that appears to be coming from inside us. Often this voice says things like you should, you'd better, or you have to, but it may just as frequently make unkind comments about your worth, intelligence, or moral character. Although this commentary sounds like your own voice, it's really an echo of your early caretakers. If you'd like to learn more about this, the book Conquer Your Critical Inner Voice, Firestone, and Catlit in 2002, can help you identify where your inner voices came from and how to free yourself from their negative influence. Everyone internalizes their parents' voice. It's how we're socialized. And while some people end up with a supportive, friendly, problem-solving inner commentary, many hear only angry, critical, and contemptuous voices. The unrelenting presence of these negative messages can do more damage than the parent him or herself. Therefore, you need to interrupt these voices in the act of making you feel bad so that you can separate your self-worth from their critical evaluations. The goal is to recognize the voice as something imported that isn't part of your true self, so that it no longer feels like a natural part of your own thinking. One way of doing so is to use the maturity awareness approach in chapter 8 to relate to those negative voices inside your head, just as you use that approach with a parent. As you get more objective about your emotionally immature parent, you can also reevaluate the voices in your head and begin to free yourself from their undue influence. Just as with your actual parent, you can make a point to observe how these internal voices talk to you. You can take what you hear with a grain of salt and make a rational decision about whether you want to keep listening to that inner critic. My voice. Yeah. Welcome in. I see there's a lot more people in here. We're reading Adult Children of Emotionally Immature Parents. We're in chapter 9, and the section that we're talking about, it is we just finished up identifying the family patterns that may be holding you back, and the next part is called Freedom to be Human and Imperfect. So I'm going to drink more water, and then we're going to get into this. All right. Freedom to be human and imperfect. Internalized parental voices probably originate in the left hemisphere of the brain, where language and logic rule. When the left brain is allowed to run the show, it puts perfectionism and efficiency before feeling and judgment before compassion. McKiltris, 2009. That's the reference. Without the balance provided by the more personal and intuitive right side of the brain, your left brain will use machine-like equations of right and wrong to size you up. Its moralistic voice will tell you that you're either good or bad, perfect or broken, depending on what you accomplish. This kind of judgmental logic is an aspect of the mental rigidity that accompanies emotional immaturity. Jason's story. Jason, a successful college professor and amateur artist, had been depressed for years. He'd grown up with an arrogant, critical father and a self-preoccupied mother, neither of whom had any patience for him. Jason had internalized a very negative, perfectionist inner parental voice that constantly evaluated him. No matter what Jason did, that inner voice had something deflating to say about it. Anytime he failed to perform as perfectly as the inner voice demanded, he instantly reacted with self-judgment and self-loathing. In addition, he could never tell if he really wanted to do something or just thought he wanted to because the voice said he should. Fortunately, in the course of therapy, Jason became aware of the connection between this inner voice and his disapproving parents. Like his parents, this negative voice criticized all of his choices, constantly undermining his self-confidence. Instead of accepting it as the voice of reason, as he had for years, Jason finally recognized it as the disembodied voice of his parents and understood its destructive agenda. Once he was able to hear the voice for what it was, Jason realized that he didn't have to believe it when it told him he was being bad, selfish, or lazy. Instead of forcing himself to do things perfectly because the voice had told him to, he started asking himself questions to clarify his own desires. When he felt dread about doing something, instead of forcing himself to do it, Jason paused and asked himself, are my needs part of this picture? Am I the biggest part of this picture? And what's the balance between my own needs and what the voice is saying I have to do? I'm going to go back and read that part. When he felt dread about doing something, instead of forcing himself to do it, Jason paused and asked himself, let's pull over. So this makes me think about listening to your body whenever you are making a decision, not just being like, well, I should do this because some person that was in authority a long time ago, like they said that you should do things that way. Like, no, listen to your body. Stop for a second. Shh. Do an inventory of how your body feels. Go through it like there's a scanner, and go down your whole body and identify what you're feeling. You feel tightness in your chest? Is your shoulders tense? Like your butterflies in your stomach? Do you suddenly have to poop? Like because you're nervous or scared? Like, what are you feeling? And so think about that when I ask these questions. Jason paused and asked himself, are my needs part of this picture? That's the first question. Are my needs part of this picture? being in a situation where you're doing something you really don't, everything in your body is like, no, I don't want to do this, and you feel like you're having to force yourself to do it, ask yourself, are my needs part of this picture? Next question, am I the biggest part of this picture? And then the next question is, and what's the balance between my own needs and what the voice is saying that I have to do? Jason had lived his whole adult life approaching tasks with the thought, oh, damn, I have to do this. Now he saw more alternatives, asking himself, do I really have to do it right now? And if it's necessary, how and when am I going to fit in the other things I want to do? Because those are the priority. He learned to first ask himself what he wanted to do, making choices on his own behalf and beating the inner voice to the punch. By taking a moment to deliberately think about what he really wanted, Jason was at last freeing himself from the tyranny of his inner voice. Ooh, that section was so good. That section was really good because it's like that. So many choices. We make so many choices because our inner voice is being very, very obnoxious, annoying, cruel, mean, an asshole to us. Like really giving it to us. And some of that is, let's go with me here. Some of that is, from our emotionally immature parent who didn't have the tools or the decision making to be the parent they needed to be for you. Like, obviously, they didn't have the decision making process if they, continued through with having a child, knowing good and hell well they was not ready for a child. So their decision making was not the greatest at that time. And if you grew up anything like me, resources were scarce. Like we did not grow up with money. So, combine capitalism and emotional immaturity, and capitalism informs that. Like the demands that, we about to go deep. Come with me. Put on your aluminum caps and we going. All right. So like those insecurities and things of that nature, that like what's causing your parent to be emotionally immature. I know it may not seem that deep, but it is capitalism, because those insecurities are coming from lack of resources. Like if they had the resources, they would have time and money to go to therapy, and it would be encouraged if they were living a particular lifestyle that was comfortable and not beholden to capitalism. All lifestyles are beholden to capitalism. But like where struggle wasn't a part of it, like these parents were stressed out because they were having to work long hours and jobs and stuff like that were not paying well, and had kids at the house. It was a lot. It was a whole lot. Choices were still made, and we end up being affected by those choices, and there is still a right to hold somebody accountable to the choices that they made. But at the same time, like those inner voices, if you really peel back the layers, like the ones of shame and the ones that are being really mean to you about accomplishments and stuff like that, like those are rooted in capitalism. So one way that you can combat capitalism is by listening to your body. And that's on the People's Oracle, and that's her philosophy. Because I want to make sure that I accredit her for that, because that is not my own original idea. That is just something that I kind of live by now. Let's see. What we got? I am going to see, because y'all ain't going to hold you. I've been working since 9 o'clock. Oh, dang. I've been working since 9 o'clock this morning, and I'm hungry. So I think I'm going to go ahead and end the show in just a moment. I'm not going to keep reading just because it's going to continue, and this is going to give us something to finish up on Thursday. Because that's the beauty about this weird test period before the new year starts. I get to do whatever I want. And if I want to leave 36 minutes into the show, I'm going to go ahead and do that, because I'm hungry. I appreciate y'all showing up. I appreciate y'all holding this space and taking the time to reflect, because I imagine if you're here, if you're still here, you're still watching, if you're going to watch the playback, that you are looking for some sort of growth. You identify with this to some degree, and I'm glad you're here. I'm glad you are sharing the space, and I appreciate y'all. I wanted to say something else, and I forgot just that fast. I will see y'all on Thursday. Oh, so you can watch playbacks on Facebook right now. Instagram has not been letting me upload the playbacks of these for some reason. I am not sure why. I think they think I'm a bot. So I don't know. I don't know what's going on. I'm working on it. So my videos are not up to date on Instagram. But if you want to watch the playback, MissTaylorSaid on Facebook. But if there's nothing else, I hope y'all have a great night. I'll see y'all on Thursday at 7 o'clock so we can finish chapter 9. Bye.